Aloha mai kako. Good morning, everyone. This is the January 22nd, 2025 Land Use Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting physically located at the Leopapa a Kamehameha State Office Tower at 235 South Baratania Street, room 405, Honolulu, Hawaii 96813. And this meeting is open to the public. Court reporting transcriptions are being done from this Zoom recording. For all meeting participants, I'd like to stress the importance of speaking slowly, clearly, and directly into your microphone. And before speaking each time, please state your name and identify yourself for the record. This is a hybrid meeting, and please be aware that all meeting participants are being recorded on the digital Zoom recording of this meeting. And it will be posted on YouTube and used for court reporting purposes. So your continued participation is your implied consent to be part of the public record of this event. If you do not wish to be part of the public record, you should exit the meeting now. Please note that the Q&A feature on the Zoom will only be monitored for signing up for public testimony. All other communications will not be addressed or part of the meeting record. Communications can be emailed to our office at dbed.luc.web@hawaii.gov. I will also share that we will be taking breaks from time to time, nominally 5 minutes every hour, a short break. And if we proceed through the lunch hour, we'll take a longer break for lunch. My name is Dan Giovanni, and I have the pleasure to serve as the LUC chair. We currently have 9 seated commissioners. Along with me are Commissioners Michael Yamane from Kauai, Commissioner Melka Hele, Commissioner Brian Lee, Commissioner Ken Hayashida, and Commissioner Miles Miyasato from Oahu. Commissioner Kamakelo Helo is joining us today by Zoom. He's also from Oahu. Welcome, Commissioner Kamakelo Helo. Can you confirm where you are and that you're alone?
Aloha, Chair. Aloha, Commission. This is Commissioner Kamakelo Helo. I am tuning in the meeting from 560 North Nimitz Highway, my office here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and I am in fact attending this hearing alone. It is only I in my office.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Nancy Carr-Smith is also joining us via Zoom from Hawaii Island. Welcome, Commissioner Carr-Smith. Can you verify your location and that you are alone?
Good morning, everyone. I'm joining from my home in Waimea. And while I have a few house guests, they might be passing me now and then, but they're not here with me for the meeting. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. And Commissioner Bruce U'u is joining us from Maui via Zoom. Commissioner U'u, can you verify your location and confirm that you are alone?
Aloha, Bruce U'u. I am alone. I'm here at my office at 175 North Market Street in Wailuku, Maui.
Thank you so much. For the commissioners, I appreciate that you verified that you are, in fact, joining us by Zoom. I'd also like to mention that I understand that Commissioner U'u will have to excuse himself for about an hour from today's meeting starting at 10:15. Is that correct, Commissioner U'u?
Well, thank you for clarification, but it was canceled, so I'll be with you guys for the long haul.
Oh, great.
Sorry to disappoint.
No disappointment whatsoever. And Commissioner Kamakeo Helo, I understand that you will also be leaving us at the end of the morning. Is that correct? Can you confirm?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. I have a hard stop at 12:30, so I'll be here till lunch.
Okay, great. Also attending today is the LUC Executive Daniel Orendanker, LUC Chief Planner Scott Derrickson, LUC Staff Planner Martina Segura, LUC Chief Clerk Ariana Kwan, and LUC Deputy Attorney General Miranda Stee. Again, court reporting transcriptions are being done from this Zoom recording. Our next order of business is the discussion on permitted interaction groups, parenthetically known as a PIG or PIG, and decision as whether to establish a PIG of the Land Use Commission pursuant to HRS 92-2.5 pertaining to the 2025 legislative session. I'll now recognize any written testimony submitted in this matter. Ms. Kwan, has there been any written testimony?
No, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Kwan, are there any members of the public that wish to testify on this matter?
Not on agenda item 2.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, as a prelude, I'd like to move into executive session so that we can confer with the Deputy Attorney General on, in this session, the reasons being limited set forth in HRS 92-5A, including in order to consult with its legal counsel on questions and issues pertaining to the board powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and facilities. So I'm going to take us into executive session at this time, and I'd like also to invite the staff to stay. You got to vote on this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm moving. Anybody going to second my motion?
Mr. Chair, second.
Thank you. Since this is the first vote of the day, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Orndecker?
The motion is to enter into executive session.
Microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The motion is to move into executive session. Moved by Chair Giovanni,
Aye.
seconded by Commissioner Yamane,
Aye.
Commissioner Uu,
Aye.
Commissioner Miyasato,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo Hello,
Aye.
Commissioner Kahele,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayashida.
Aye.
Commissioner Carr Smith.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So Ariana, you'll let me know when we're ready?
Yep, we're going to need a minute for all the commissioners on this Zoom to jump off this Zoom and for them to go on to the executive session Zoom.
Okay, thank you. We'll stand by. 10:28, and we're back on the record in open session. We're currently, our order of business that we're currently on is a discussion of permitted interaction groups or PIGs and a decision as to whether to establish a PIG of the Land Use Commission pursuant to HRS 92-2.5 pertaining to the 2025 legislative session. So let me first put on the record a summary of what occurred during executive session. We had an executive session that was attended by all 9 commissioners and Deputy Attorney General Steed. In addition to that, I had invited staff members to attend and participate in executive session, including Mr. Orndenker, Ms. Martina Segura, Mr. Derek Erickson, and Ms. Ariana Kwan. So it was shared with us by the Deputy Attorney General that we basically have 3 options, 3 general options by which this commission can convey testimony on a legislative bill that is representative of a commission decision. And that could be a delegation to staff. It could be a delegation to up to 2 commissioners, or it could be the formation of a PIG itself. And we discussed how each of those might work, and we did not make any decisions. We did not deliberate. Ms. Steed, is there anything further I should add to the record at this time? That's good. Okay. So, commissioners, we have an understanding, I believe, which has to do with the magnitude of the effort. Just to review that under all 3 of the options that were presented to us on a bill by bill basis, that would be agendized and for discussion and action before this commission, the commission would take a position. And then based on what that position is, it could delegate authority to prepare and provide testimony to the legislature. So what is your pleasure? How on this matter? Commissioner Miyasato?
Yeah, Chair, being that there's, I guess, sort of already installed guardrails by admin, by our current administration. And the fact that our executive officer recognizes it's a different body within the commission with our own set of direction, I guess you could say. I'm pretty comfortable with 1A or 1B. That's just my open for discussion.
So just to review from my notes, what 1A and 1B were, make sure we're on the same page. 1A is that a blanket delegation to the executive officer to testify, prepare and provide testimony to the legislature consistent with a decision of position that's been made by the board. And 1B would be
To vet through,
comments, yes.
yeah.
The 1B is that we would delegate to the staff or the executive officer. They would prepare testimony. That testimony would be circulated back to the commissioner before it was presented for comment and approval. And if no more than 4 commissioners vote against that testimony, then it would be what's called what do you call it? A affirmative negative vote?
I believe that was 1C.
Let's see. Okay, what was 1B?
1B was we would just vet through the bills at the next meeting and turn it over
Turn them
to
loose.
staff.
Okay, so it would be vet.
Yeah.
So 1 is blanket delegation, 2 is delegation, but with a briefing back to the commissioner on the testimony.
Correct. I just feel at this point, the pig might be a little premature, unless we see something that's of real concern. We still have time to form it, so.
That's correct. Yep, okay. Commissioners, thoughts, comments? Commissioner Carr Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's maybe a little late to start a pig at this point in this session and too much maybe of a learning curve and too much work for everybody at this point. I personally like 1B because while it's not what you just said, Chair, it was my understanding that 1B is for us to vote on the bills that the executive officer and the people that call it before they give it to the executive officer determine affect the land use commission. So I would like to have a say in those bills. I think it's our responsibility to do so. And so I would most like 1B.
So I'm sorry if I confuse people. So because I like 1B also, but I'm not doing a very good job of explaining what I like. So I'm gonna try one more time.
The difference is that you didn't mention is that we're going to vote on them.
Yeah, so in 1B, a bill would be agendized, discussed, and voted upon by this commission. And then we would delegate to the executive officer to prepare and present testimony consistent with that position. Is that right? Okay, I'm getting a yes from Commissioner Miyasato and from Commissioner Carr Smith, so I think I got it that time. Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Chair. So to clarify, so 1B would include the part about how our emails would be posted? No.
No.
Okay. Okay. And then if under one B, we say we support something. Is that now the policy where the executive officer will now actually support a bill? Or does he still have to discuss it with the department director or deputy director?
Mr. Orendecker?
If this commission decides it wants to support a bill, that's the testimony I will submit. Whether or not usually support is not a problem with this administration. It's when you are in opposition. And if this commission decides that it's in opposition to a bill, that's the testimony I will submit. The deputy director can disagree and request that I redo the testimony. And if that is the case, I will contact whoever this commission decides, whether it be the chair or whoever, and explain to them the situation. I have not seen that happen very. If this commission takes a position, the deputy director has in the past honored it.
Yeah, because this board is different, I actually think you should have less of a problem, because I think in the past, the board might have told you to oppose a couple of the governor's package bills to liberalize the amount of acreage. That's what I've seen from the past board. I don't know that that would be the case now, so I'm good with 1B with the guardrails.
So it looks like before I ask for a motion, any other general comments? Commissioner Yamane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my thoughts, like as a commissioner here, I'm not into policy making. I understood my position to be as a regulated body that's based on existing laws and statutes. And if those laws and statutes change, and so does the function of this commission. And I'm fine by whatever that is. I personally don't want to see any bills. I think our job here is to listen to petitioners with land use issues, boundary amendments, special use permits, and be very diligent on asking those questions. But when it comes to legislative, and I did that in my previous life, I got paid for that. This is a voluntary position here at the commission. I don't want to review bills. I don't want to make positions on bills. My personal base would be what I mentioned earlier, is just delegate authority to staff with guardrails to comment only on effects of bills to the commission from how it functions based on the bill's impact on the commission, and not take a position to support or oppose. And so that any option that puts a bill in front of me to review or oppose or support, I probably will oppose it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Chair?
One sec, making a note. Okay, who was that? Commissioner Carr Smith?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Mike's comments. I totally understand where you're coming from, but since the executive officer does go to the legislature and provide testimony on behalf of the LUC, then that's when I feel like it becomes my responsibility to weigh in on that, because I don't want the wrong thing being conveyed to the legislature that's not reflective of the LUC. If there was no testimony by the EO, then I think that would be a different thing. But since there is, that's why I feel that way. So I just wanted to, I get where you're coming from, but I don't quite agree.
Any other comments? Commissioner Hayashida?
Commissioner Hayashida, the bills move very fast through the process, and I don't see how we can meet and approve all the bills. So I thought 1B was very handcuffing the director. But is that true that?
So under one B, we'd have to meet and, review and take a position on a bill by bill basis. So, I mean, we're gonna test the water a little bit today, how long that process takes, but we got 4 bills that are agendized today. We'll discuss those. We're not gonna be taking a formal position on any of those because that's not agendized. We're just gonna discuss them. But I think that the earlier answer to Commissioner U's question is that is a minimum of 12 bills that would be agendized. I mean, if we discuss and vote 2 hours each, that's 24 hours of meeting time just to develop positions on those bills. That's a lot of time.
And timing wise, doesn't seem reasonable.
Doesn't seem
Yeah,
reasonable to me.
it's very handcuffing to me to go to one B. Personal opinion.
Yeah. Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think, maybe to alleviate a little bit of that concern, the 12 or 20 bills basically boil down to 3 or 4 themes, and if we can kind of approach it that way, of course, they have, differences as far as maybe acreage or, stuff like that, but in general, it's 3 or 4 themes. If it's something that simple, then maybe it won't be that difficult. And I'll ask the executive officer if he agrees with that.
Yeah, that has been the case in the past. We get 3, 4, 5 bills that have a theme, increase the acreage for the county's jurisdiction, is one of the main things. This year we have a couple of other different things that are floating around. But, we can lump them together into general categories that may assist the commission in rendering a decision with things like that.
Yeah, and just to address Commissioner Yamani, I mean, I'm good with not even taking a position on many bills, and just just commenting if necessary. So we don't necessarily have to take a position on every single bill.
If I can respond to that just for a moment, a lot of the bills that we comment on are bills that we don't necessarily oppose, but it's not uncommon for the legislature to draft a bill and post for hearing a measure that somehow impacts us via Chapter 91, for instance, or Chapter 92, that if they don't carve out an exception for us, or if they don't drop the bill, then it's going to put us in a position where we won't be able to do our business. And so those are the type of bills that we find ourselves testifying on a lot outside of the bills on the, reducing or increasing the acreage or something like that. And those we usually work with the AG on, to be honest with you, because we say, hey, look, if they pass this, how are we going to be able to do our, contested case hearings? Or will our notices timeframes become unreasonable? And we're usually in close communication with the AG on those. And those, I don't, if I can say so, I don't think those are the type of bills that this commission wants to get involved in, because those aren't policy issues. They're more administrative. How do we function? Is this going to change the way we function? Is it going to make it impossible for us to function? That type of thing.
So any other comments at this point? So I think that what I see happening before us is a coalescence around option 1A or 1B. 1A being what has historically been the case, where commissioners don't get directly involved, even taking preliminary positions. And it's just a blanket delegation to executive staff and Mr. Horndaker. Or 1B, where on a bill by bill basis that would be agendized, the commission would take a position and then delegate the responsibility to the executive officer to draft testimony and present it on behalf of the commission that's consistent with that position. Those are the two that I see evolving from this group. So I will take the chair will accept the motion of how this commission wants to proceed. Commissioner
Sure, I'll
Miyasato.
make a motion and we'll see where it goes. So I make a motion that we adopt option 1A with the guardrails mentioned by Commissioner Yamani, that the staff not take a position but comments in regards to the effect of our organization. And if there is a position that's going to be taken, then that particular bill be brought before the commission. And I know the constraints of time, but there are several crossovers. So even if we don't get an immediate testimony for that particular hearing, we still can give our opinion and share our thoughts on the crossover.
So let me see if I could say that back. No, I think you said something very, very good, important. You are making a motion, before I ask for a second, I want to make sure it's understood, for adopting, option 1A, which is a blanket delegation to the executive officer with the proviso that they provide comments only and not take a position for or against a bill. However, at the discretion of the executive officer, if the executive officer perceives an issue of significance within a given bill, he has to present it to the full commission for a position before proceeding. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Commissioner Hayashida, second.
So moved by Commissioner Miyasato and seconded by Commissioner Hayashida. Further discussions? Commissioner Lee?
I respect the opinions of my other commissioners. I'm more comfortable with 1B. I don't think that that's going to delay things that much because this is a 4-month process. There are laterals and crossovers, and there's really only 3 or 4 main themes. I'd like to have some input before testimony is made, not after. And I think actually most of the time I probably favor not taking a position or just commenting, but I just like that safeguard, and that's my opinion.
So I think that you said that, just to clarify, that you would be voting in opposition to the motion.
Yeah, I would be voting.
We're not
in
voting on
opposition.
1B, we're just,
Right.
1A is
I would
the
be
only
voting
thing.
in opposition.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner Imani?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the motion. And I think I would support that motion, appreciate that motion, and seconded by the 2 commissioners. I think that's, practically speaking, I think it keeps us aware what's going on. I think it doesn't unduly burden staff of doing extra work for the commissioners. And like the guardrails that Commissioner Miyasato said, like if there's a situation where our executive officers thinks that this will impact the commission and a position is required, that because we have several bites at the apple. I mean, normally we don't even testify until crossover, because those are the bills that actually gonna possibly make it. Everything's usually dies before then. So that I can support. So, but I want to thank the commissioners for that motion. Second, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, further comment? Commissioner Carr Smith?
I won't be supporting the motion. I don't think blanket delegation is a good thing to provide at this point. But I respect the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody? Commissioner, where?
We're in the middle of a motion vote though, so that any decision on that's gonna have to be made after the motion's done.
Well, let me, 1 second. So, there is a call for a second round. Okay, we'll move on that. We'll take, any other comments on the motion?
Chair,
So the chair.
I'm
who's that?
sorry.
Commissioner Carsmith, go ahead.
So the agenda item is not what exactly we're talking about, right? So should the motion be framed so that it's the pig and the decision as to whether we're creating a pig? Isn't that what the agenda item is?
So as I understood from our discussion in exec session, that we have three options under HRS 92-2.5. And yeah, so basically the motion, as I understand it, consistent with how it's been agendized, that in lieu of a pig formation, so we're deciding not to form a pig. And instead, we're deciding to choose option 1A out of HRS 92-2.5, which is, according to the Office of Information Practices, consistent with sunshine law, how we can proceed to provide testimony. And that would be a blanket delegation to the executive officer to provide testimony on our behalf, but under the conditions that he would never provide, that he would only provide comment. And secondly, that if he perceived that there was a significant issue in a given bill, he would bring that to the commission for open discussion before providing testimony. Okay, and we can vote on that. So the chair is going to support this motion. I think it's a very practical way to move forward. I think that it is consistent with past practice, which has served this commission pretty well. And I also share Commissioner Yamani's concern for what is the primary business of the commissioners, which is to act on contested cases before this and declaratory rulings before this committee, before this commission, as opposed to getting bogged down in legislative activities. So I'm going to support it. Mr. Arndecker, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is to give the executive officer delegation to provide testimony on the commission's behalf with the proviso that the executive officer only provide comments unless the executive officer sees a significant issue which will then be brought before the commission. Is that correct? Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioner Hayashida.
Aye.
Commissioner Carr-Smith.
No,
Commissioner Kahele.
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo, hello.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
I'm gonna have to say that we're here because it hasn't worked in the past. But I'm optimistic that, and I'm willing to give it a try, that it will work, but I'm still gonna vote no. Thank you.
Commissioner Uu.
No.
Commissioner Yamane.
Aye.
Chair Giovanni. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion carries 6-3.
Thank you. Ms. Kwan, did you say there is somebody who wants to provide some public testimony on this agenda item?
There's a request from the public to do a public testimony relating to agenda item 4 because they have to leave.
I understand. Has this person provided any written testimony on agenda item 4?
No, they have not.
I'm gonna make do I have to have a motion to change the order? Okay, we're gonna go to out of order in sequence so we can accommodate some public testimony. This shouldn't take too long, hopefully. Our next agenda item that we will take is what has been agendized. The next agenda item is a discussion. Wait a minute. Make sure-
Agenda item 4.
Once we start, we gotta do all three bills. So I'm not inclined to take all three bills at this time. We have representatives here to do agenda item 3, and we're gonna do agenda item 3. So let me ask the witness to provide her testimony in writing. She has more than enough, he or she has more than enough time to do that. And I'll actually read that written testimony on the record when we get to that point.
Understood, Chair.
Thank you. So we're gonna stay with the sequence of the agenda. And our next order of business is discussion excuse me, of preliminary legislative measure proposed by the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, known as DBED. And it's intended for the legislative packet, and it does impact the LUC. And my understanding is that this bill has been drafted in part and developed by the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. And we have representatives, including Mary Alice Evans, the Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. And I understand that you'd be willing to provide testimony on this bill at this time. Is that correct? Thank you. Miss, she can present first, and then I think that it makes the public testimony even more relevant. But I do need to swear you in, Ms. Evans. Ms. Evans, could you state your name and your affiliation, and then I'll swear you in.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Mary Alice Evans. I am the Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Thank you. Do you swear the testimony today to be the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, for allowing us to present. This is an admin bill, part of the Governor's admin bill package. It was introduced last night at 4:30, and it has two bill numbers. The House bill is House Bill number 1015, and the Senate bill number is 1334. The Office of Planning, of course, will be supporting this measure because it is a part of the Governor's admin bill package. And we will be asking, as soon as we get we know what the House and the Senate have referred these bills to which subject matter committee, then we will also be drafting a letter to the subject matter chairs, asking them to hear the Senate and the House version of this bill. That is standard process for admin bills. Nothing different or unusual there. Chair, may I go over some of the provisions of this measure?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay.
Explain it to us.
Yeah. So The reason we drafted this measure for consideration by first DBED and then by the governor's office is that in January 2022, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development presented to the Land Use Commission, the governor, and the legislature per amendments to Chapter 205 done by Act 153, I believe. 152, Dan? Yeah, one of those. Okay. That changed the 5-year boundary review to a periodic review of districts. The Office of Planning had not been able to do a 5-year boundary review because of the costs involved. So with the change in language, we were able to do a 5-year, not a 5-year, 25-year review of districts. And one of the findings was that the counties have a process under Chapter 226 and Chapter 46, the county statute, that requires them to develop a general plan and county development plans. And that those plan processes have a lot of community engagement, and they're adopted by the land use authority of each county. So with those findings, we drafted a bill that, the purpose of this act is to allow the county land use decision-making authorities to process district boundary amendments to align state land use district boundaries with conforming land use designations contained in adopted county land use plans. And it amends Chapter 205-3.1 to make that possible. So that is that's the substance of the bill, Chair.
Well, how would it work if the bill's passed? What's different? What changes?
It allows the counties to, based on their adopted plans, which all 4 we determined on our research, have designated future urban growth areas. And I believe I think it was November 7th, when I presented that concept to the commission, and we showed you a map of those areas in each county that they tend to be adjacent to urban areas, sometimes completely surrounded by state urban district, usually with at least 2 or 3 sides adjacent to the state urban district. And they have, the counties have determined that they either have urban infrastructure or they can put in urban infrastructure that would support urban uses, including housing and other amenities for urban use. So how it would work, Chair, is that the counties would decide if they want to consider doing a district boundary amendment for one or more of those areas. It will probably depend on whether they feel they're ready to put in the infrastructure that would be needed in order to make it possible for urban uses to be located there. So they would then, each county has in their charter either a process where the planning department, the mayor sends bills for an ordinance either to the planning commission, all 4 planning commissions, well, all 7 or 8 planning commissions, excuse me. And then the planning commission either makes a recommendation to the county council or makes a decision depending on the county.
So hypothetically, I'm still trying to get the
Yep,
mechanics.
and these would be public hearings following the county's process for complying with Chapter 91 and 92.
So what is the question that came to my mind is the role of the landowner. So if a landowner has hypothetically a parcel that is classified as agriculture, And the county general plan has surrounding properties that are urban. And someone in the county says that that makes sense to make that urban as well. Does the landowner have a say in the process?
The landowner can continue farming as long as they want to farm.
But what about for tax purposes and things of that nature? Huh?
I don't have an answer to that, Chair.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, just my understanding is that the tax rate on ag land is more favorable on a county by county basis than urban land. And if I'm farming on my ag land, why would I want to pay a higher tax rate just to be consistent with the county plan? I mean, that's kind of the question that I would, is
Mhm.
where are those landowners' concerns? Where do they come up in the process? Because the way it is now, the landowner comes here to get a DBA.
Mhm. I can only speculate. So, you know, this is not, I'm not speaking for any of the 4 counties.
Okay,
But I would be guessing that the county would not proceed if the landowner, say there's only one landowner, is not interested. Because why would they invest in infrastructure when there's, you know, no need for infrastructure to support agriculture?
even if it's surrounded by urban.
Well, let me add a scenario to that.
Okay.
City and County of Honolulu has done something innovative in terms of transit-oriented development zoning. Instead of waiting for a landowner to come to the county planning department with a application to rezone land within a half a mile of one of the HART stations, they have undertaken a district zoning approach where now these are all in the urban districts, so we're not talking about conversion of ag land to urban, but we are talking about rezoning from, say, you know, possibly even ag county zoning, but possibly just a lower density zoning. The city and county of Honolulu and their city council have adopted zoning that then does not compel landowners to make any changes to their whatever structures or business they have on their properties, but allows them to, using the new TOD zoning, to move when they're ready, move to a higher density, as long as it complies with the TOD guidelines for the TOD zoning. So I'm thinking that's maybe analogous, maybe not, it depends on the county. Neighbor island counties are different from Oahu, so that might not apply on a neighbor island.
Fair enough. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Evans on her testimony today? Mr. Miyazato?
Thank you for that presentation, for your testimony. Do you, by chance, have any breakdown on the 65,000 acres county by county?
Does our report have a breakout? I think it does, Commissioner Miyasato. I don't happen to have the
Okay.
report with me. It is on our website, and copies were provided to the commissioners in January 22. We'd be happy to provide a copy to any commissioner that wants a hard copy at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Uu?
Good morning and thank you for that. Did you get any input from the counties on that?
During our bill drafting process, we did reach out to the counties. This is not it's not the kind of where we send a letter to a county agency requesting written comments on a petition or a special permit. What we did was this is all prior to whether the governor has decided to include a bill in his bill package. So it's very informal, but we did, and the counties were generally favorable. And one county was very favorable. That would be Hawaii County.
Well, I just wanted to add that I read it, and I think if they're happy with it, and I think I'd be happy with it. I understand that some of the powers maybe shift a little towards the county side, is my understanding. I understand on Maui, within the community plan, changes are made that adversely affect landowners, only because you went from an urban growth area to maybe a park space. So this might be the opposite of that to a certain degree. But if it's vetted through the county, and what I read, I think it'll be a benefit. It could be a benefit. And again, I said could because I'm not an expert, so it could. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu. Commissioner Miyasato.
Thank you. I have one follow-up. I guess when I read this, does that grandfather just that 65? So this would be an ongoing open process?
This is a forward-looking bill. Nothing's grandfathered. Each county would have to initiate a process, which of course would follow their own public hearing and process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Director.
Morning.
So I'm clear. So you're correct, I think, that the counties are in favor of this. In fact, they complain loudly sometimes. I think 4 of us have served on the county planning commissions, and we've heard that refrain before. But just to follow up on what Commissioner Miyasato said, so in the future, if the county through their community development plan process at their local planning commissions decides to change their boundaries so that agriculture becomes urban, then they could do that basically on their own without coming to the state. Is that correct?
They would have to comply with Chapter 226, which lays out a process for doing a general plan update and development plan updates.
For their respective counties.
Yes, for their respective counties.
And if I'm not mistaken, that process goes through their county councils as well. Is that your understanding?
Yes, those plans are adopted by their elected officials and reviewed, I think in all of them, by their appointed planning commissions.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I'd follow up and ask the executive officer for this bill, under what we adopted as the 1A policy, would you consider this as something significant enough to come to the board to ask their opinion, or would you just say that you can just comment?
No, I would say this is significant enough to bring before the commission.
Okay, thank you. That's reassuring. And thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, once we're satisfied with the questions for Director Evans, I'm gonna ask staff to comment on their review of the same bill for our information. Anything further for Ms. Evans? Thank you very much. So now I'd like to turn to staff, Mr. Arndaker, you and Mr. Erickson, whoever, to give us your perspective and review of this bill.
Yeah. I have a couple of concerns. I think the devil's in the detail on this bill. And I think that the chair was correct in asking the questions that he did with regard to process, as were the rest of the commissioners. Under the Nolan versus California Coastal Commission and Dolan versus City of Tigard cases, which were both U.S. Supreme Court cases, there is a right to, of property owners to maintain the value of their property. And not to, the states are specifically prohibited from changing that without due process. If there was an opportunity for an individual landowner to object and was an opportunity for due process with regard to a piece of property, I think that we would have fewer concerns. And the best example that I can give you of that is a real world example. I have a friend who contacted me who her family has owned a piece of property up at Turtle Bay, sandwiched in between the proposed developments. And she was very concerned that her property was going to be rezoned to urban and get swept up in that whole urbanization of the North Shore. And she wouldn't be able to pay the increased taxes. That is a real concern. And I think that if due process is met, this is not, I mean, that is my concern. Let me put it that way, that due process be met for each individual landowner, instead of just being swept up in a change. And I would disagree with Mary Alice. If your land is urbanized, you can no longer farm on it. I mean, there's a limitation on the number of chickens and cows and, you know, all the rest of that stuff. And there is prohibitions on causing a nuisance and all the rest of that stuff. So if you're a farmer and your land is swept up in one of these urbanizations, you're going to have to stop farming. And I'm concerned about that issue. I understand that there are a lot of small parcels, when I say small, 100 acres or so parcels that are wrapped up in between other urban areas or immediately adjacent urban areas that should be urbanized. But I think there needs to be some recognition that there are people who don't want to have their land urbanized, and they should have there should be a process involved that allows them to have their land taken out of that blanket change under the general plans. That's my concern. I also think if they're not given that opportunity, then they probably have a lawsuit to stop it. So it's not that I'm opposed to the concept, it's just that the devil's in the details.
Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I appreciate that explanation. I'm just wondering what the difference is, because the county can still do that now. It's just that the difference is that the state would be out of the decision. Is that correct?
Well, the county can petition the Land Use Commission for a district boundary amendment. That is one of the provisions in Chapter 205. However, we are then required to hold a contested case hearing and notify all the impacted landowners that they are, of what's happening, and that they are welcome to join in the contested case hearing. And like I say, if that process existed at the county level, I think I'd have less concern.
But isn't that what happens at the county level? I mean, the county still has to notify the neighbors, and even if it's over 15 acres, before it comes to us, the county still has to go through that process first. Is that right?
It's over 15, no. If it's over 15 acres, then the county, if the county was submitting the petition, yes. If, let's say it's a 100-acre parcel area, if the county submits a petition to the Land Use Commission, then our rules, chapter 1515 would apply.
Oh, okay, so the distinction is that if the landowner does it,
Mhm.
then he has to go through the county process. But if the county is the one that's requesting it, it doesn't have to go through its own process first?
I'm not gonna pretend that I understand the politics at the county level. If the county's planning department decides it wants to, urbanize an area, I mean, I'm sure that that has to go through the planning commission and the county council. And then they would come to us.
Yeah, so that's kind of my question is, don't they do it anyway? Because,
I,
I mean, it's a,
I'm not sure. The,
because my
the cons-
understanding is they do. I mean, they're, every 5 to 10 years, they review everything all over again.
well, the general plan does not change the
But-
designation of the county,
But the
right?
community development plans do change, the 8 that are at least on Oahu.
Yeah, but they don't change the districting of the land. That they are just, they're plans. They don't rezone, they don't redistrict, they don't do any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that maybe there's a parallel with the eminent domain capabilities. That if a county or wants to take a private landowner's land and use it for government or public purposes, it could seize the property through eminent domain and pay fair compensation. That process exists, right? Seems to be some parallels between that and what we might be talking about here, although I'm totally unclear on the legal process and that would be involved in the.
So in this process, they wouldn't have any recourse, like under eminent domain, the county could just say, we want to zone your Turtle Bay property as urban and tough luck. Is that what you're saying?
That is my concern. And I'm not pretending, the difficulty that I have with this is that the bill itself doesn't spell out that the counties are required to go through a due process procedure. And that's what I'm saying, this is commenting. I think if that was alleviated and there was a provision in this bill that allowed for a process to have someone like Miles or this woman who approached me from the North Shore have recourse to say, no, I don't want my land urbanized, then I think I would be more comfortable with it. I'm just concerned that we run into a situation where we're cutting out small farmers and other agricultural activity without recourse.
Okay, I would like to ask Director Evans if you have anything that might address those concerns.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Chair, may I proceed? Okay. The bill does note Chapter 46. Chapter 46 is the state law that enables the counties to establish zoning and planning processes. Their processes do have due process. They allow for public hearings, public testimony, public, oh, I'm sorry. And I believe they also allow for contested case hearings. So if a landowner was concerned, they could, I believe, become an intervener, petition to become an intervener, or apply to, I'm not sure the right verb, and make their concerns known. And I think, that would be very strong testimony, but some of these areas have more than one landowner, I think. Aaron, do you think that's the case? Yeah, so multiple parcels, but they've gone through an extensive public review process prior to being adopted by the county councils, in which the residents in those areas had to debate and discuss whether they would support at the county council level designating these as future urban growth areas. Some of them call them future urban growth boundaries, others future urban growth areas, but it's a formal designation at the county level.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, because now that I think about it, 5 of us have served on the county planning commissions, and if this bill were to pass, the only difference is from before is that, or how it is now, is that after the county does its process, it goes to the state land use commission. And we're not going to compensate anybody if we decide to zone something, as urban. Although the difference is that the landowner is the one that's making the petition. So yeah, thank you for your input.
Chair, may I point out one thing that I may have forgotten to mention?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so lands that are designated as IL are not included in
Right.
this. They're explicitly excluded from
And
this
conservation.
option. And therefore, a agriculturalist, a producer, a rancher that wanted to ensure that their lands were not urbanized have the option of putting together a petition for declaratory order to have their lands designated as IAL. They will get even additional tax benefits from doing that. And so there should be strong incentive for someone who wants to keep their land in agriculture to follow that route. And this bill provides them that route.
I got a question, Chair.
Commissioner Wu, please.
Yeah. I like this bill for a number of reasons. I heard the mention be made that several of us served on planning commissions. I know on Maui, there's a general plan advisory committee that looks over urban growth boundaries for so much years. And I know after that, it goes to the community plan, and currently Maui in Kihei is doing the community plan. And that process is still ongoing. It's been ongoing for months. So the vetting process is within the community, unlike what we're doing now. So it's in the community. It goes back to the planning commission, and they have another opportunity to share the mana'o at the planning commission. And when I was on the planning commission, we had to go back out in the community once more to hear from the community. After the planning commission has their say, which is given to them from the GPAC to the community plan, after they get their cracks at it, because there's a lot of cracks at it, it comes to the planning commission where they go back out into the community, comes back to the planning, then from there it gets vetted by the council. So I just saying, I'd rather have it done within the community. Like, so you can just, we're not on Oahu, we can go Maui, you're in Lahaina, it's gonna be held in Lahaina. Vet it, and you still get cracks at it at the commission and cracks at it at the county council. So I think the process of vetting it is way better per any community if it's done in your community and the decisions are made by community members. So I would advise your friends to be active in and maybe be a part of the community process by vetting his or her properties. And again, I like the part that you're right, important ag and conservation to my understanding. Am I wrong? Can't be changed. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. According to our executive director, IEL and conservation cannot be changed by this. So thank you, Commissioner Wu. I'm going to take a short recess now, and when we return, we'll go all the way to 12:30, and then we'll take a lunch break for planning purposes for Commissioner Kamela. Oh, hello. So we'll take a break. It's now 11:30, come back 11:35, and then we'll go to 12:30 and take lunch. Wiki's not back yet, huh? Okay, we're gonna proceed. He'll join us in progress. 10:38, back in session on agenda item 3, which is this legislative bill, which now has a number HB 1015 and SB 1334. So I'd like to take public testimony at this time. Do you have anybody that wants to provide oral testimony?
Yes, Kenneth Church indicated he would like to give testimony on agenda item 3. I will promote him to panelist now.
Thank you. We can you do a mic check, please?
Hello, check calamai from my tardiness. Mic check.
Thank you.
Mr. Church, can you do a mic check and a video check? Mr. Church, can you hear us?
Mr. Church, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Do you have video capability today or only audio?
The audio, and it has been a little intermittent while I was listening to you, so I hope it doesn't disconnect in the middle. If so, it usually resumes within about 10 seconds.
Okay, so please state your name and address, and then I'll swear you in.
My name is Kenneth Church. I live on the island of Hawaii in the Hakalau area.
And you swear the testimony today will be the truth?
I do.
Please proceed. You have 2 minutes.
Problem that you just described here, for example, the county zoning of land versus the land use commission being in conflict or potentially
Please speak as a little bit louder and directly into your microphone.
Okay. The problem that you've described here, county zoning of land versus the LUC, it's already in conflict and it has been for years. An example is that when the LUC districted shoreline and other lands into the conservation district, property still remained ag in the county system. To this day, the DLNR continues to strongly resist continued use of conservation land for ag, even though non-conforming use is clearly allowed in the state's regulations. I know because I've spent the last 7 years writing over 90 letters back and forth with the DLNR without any success, trying to get them to recognize my right to use my land for ag. That is my testimony.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Church? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Church. Mr. Derrickson, did you have anything to offer on this bill at this time? Additional? Thank you. All right, Anna, one final time. Anybody else providing public testimony?
Seeing none in the Q&A feature for agenda item 3.
Okay, so let me provide a brief summary, if I may. This is a bill that is being sponsored by, as part of the governor's administrative package emanating from DBED and OPSD. We've got an overview of it today and how it might work. We've also heard that from our executive officer that the staff has reviewed it and has some concerns. And so this bill will be agendized for our February 5th meeting for a more detailed discussion and potentially for this commission to take a position on this bill. Okay. We're going to continue now to 12:30. I had a little question to make sure we have a quorum after that. So we're going to lose Koike at 12:30 and we're going to lose Commissioner Hayashida at 12:30. Everybody else, the other 7 commissioners, will be able to continue. Is that correct, Ms. Kwan?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're going to proceed to the next order of business, which is agenda item to discuss Hawaii legislative bills that potentially impact the LUC. And there were 3 that were identified, and we'll take them in order. And let me ask staff to provide an overview of them first on SB 36 relating to the Land Use Commission. Mr. Derrickson.
Aloha kako, Scott Derrickson, Chief Planner, Land Use Commission. So Senate Bill 36, titled Relating to the Land Use Commission, would amend HRS 205 to allow counties to request the LUC to reclassify lands not currently in the urban district, but which are designated for urban growth in a county general plan or a community or development plan. This bill says that before a request can be submitted, required analysis need to be done by the county. It require meets and bounds description and a map. The LUC would then have 90 days to update the boundaries and notify the county of the update. And it also directs the LUC to adopt rules to implement this. So that's my summary of Senate Bill 36.
So if I understand what you said, Senate Bill 36 is similar to the one we just discussed, but it would be, the reclassification would occur before the LUC.
That's correct. In contrast to the previous bill we were discussing, this would be an application from the county to the Land Use Commission. So it would cover the same types of lands, those lands that were already in a county urban growth area, but was not currently in the state urban district. So it would be a request for a reclassification.
That's brought forth not by the landowner, but by the county.
That would be county initiated. That's correct, not from a landowner.
Okay. Does staff see this to have a material concern that we need to agendize this bill and discuss it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think my concern is the word shall. It doesn't provide the commission with any leeway if someone comes in and says, you know, I don't want my piece of property urbanized. And that's my main concern.
So the answer is yes, you want to
Yeah,
discuss it?
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would bring it in front of this commission for discussion.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions on this bill to Mr. Derrickson or Mr. Orendaker? Hearing none, do I have any requests for yeah,
We have one person online who would like to give testimony on all 3 bills.
okay, so we'll hear the other 2 and then we'll.
Yes.
Okay, so but let me say that based on what I heard from staff, let's plan on agendizing this bill on our February 5th meeting for the commission to discuss and take a decision on a position on this bill. Okay, SB 28 relating to Land Use Commission. Mr. Derrickson.
Okay, Senate Bill 28 relating to the Land Use Commission. It would change the voting requirements from the present to a simple majority of those present at a meeting. So it's not just a simple majority of the total membership of the commission. It's a simple majority of those present at a meeting. To do that, it amends section 205-1. And that's the basic outline of this proposal.
So in other words, if only 3 commissioners were present, they, 2 out of the 3 could vote for a district boundary amendment? Yeah, that's my question.
Well, it's not clear whether an amendment such as this to chapter 205 would then override requirement of quorum. The change here would be directly to chapter 205, and it does appear to change the quorum requirements.
Commissioners, questions, concerns?
I got a question.
Commissioner Wu,
Why was it at 6? Just curious. Well, I know it said instead of, normally it's at 6 votes, correct? To
Mr.
get-
Arnecker, why does the DBA require 6 votes?
Instead of 5, if you got 9 members.
So
Mr. Derrickson, do you have an answer?
yeah, yes, Chief Planner Scott Derrickson. Article 11, Section 3 of the state constitution requires 6 affirmative votes for any changes from important agricultural lands into another district.
MIL?
So that was in the Constitution prior to the IAL statute being approved, but the term important agricultural lands was used in the Constitution. So general practice of the commission has been that anytime we're considering agricultural land reclassification, that the commission does it by at least a six vote margin.
It's also in chapter 205. And chapter 205 has mirrored the Constitution for many years. And it actually, I think it was part of the initial drafting in 1965. So I can't speak to it, the thinking behind it, but I mean, there is some concern that this is unconstitutional.
Well, I just my manao is 1965 and 2025 is a big difference, and the challenges we facing in 2025 is definitely different from what they was facing in 65. So I think change are good sometimes, or change is needed. my 2 cents. Thank you.
So would this bill change 205? Would it change the Constitution?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It can't change the Constitution, but it can change chapter 205.
So is this a bill that you would recommend that we discuss and take a position on because of your concerns, or are you comfortable recommending to the commission that that you could handle it independently?
I don't know how to answer that. The bill has died early in both of the last 2 legislative sessions. This bill is submitted on behalf of the Grassroots Institute year in, year out. And it just doesn't get anywhere.
Do we have time to wait to decide whether we want to see if it has legs?
I believe so.
Chair,
Where is that? Oh, Commissioner Carr Smith.
I'd like for this bill to be put on our list for next meeting. Thank you.
Could you, I appreciate that. Could you explain why? I mean, just heard of why it wasn't necessary, but why would you think?
I just think there needs to be more discussion about it and a little more detail provided. I think it's clear that the staff probably doesn't support it, but I'd like to understand a little bit more clearly why, and just to make sure we're thinking of everything before we take a position. I don't want to automatically say no.
Well, we didn't say no. I said we have time to decide to put it up in time before it's decided at this legislature.
Okay, I wasn't sure why we would wait, but
Yeah, I have to say that, in the past, we did not testify on the initial hearing on this bill and waited to see if it had legs.
Commissioner Wu, removing, there you are. Commissioner Wu?
Yeah, and even for me, I think if it has legs, it would garner some attention than if it didn't. So that's my manao on that.
So let's talk calendar, Mr. Ornecker. Would you be able to tell us at our February 5th meeting whether or not at that time, whether you think it survived or we need to talk about it at the next meeting or what?
Scott, I'm not that familiar with the legislative calendar. When is first lateral?
Commissioner Lee is
we-
correct. March 14th.
Yeah, so we would in fact have till the end of February to make a decision on this. If it doesn't get scheduled by the end of February, beginning of March, it's probably not going anywhere. If it does get scheduled for an initial hearing and passes out.
Wait, let him finish.
Oh, February 14th, okay.
So
Thank you.
The first lateral is February 14th, not March 14th.
Well, we will it's highly likely we will know by our next meeting whether or not it's gonna go, if it's appointed to multiple committees, which it has been in the past, whether or not it will be heard by that first committee.
What are you recommending?
I think we can, I guess if the commission wants to weigh in on this, we should schedule it for our next hearing.
February 5th. Okay.
I'm sorry, one more comment, pretty please.
You don't have to say pretty please. All you gotta do is raise your hand.
I'm happy to. I'm still learning. So, Dano, at what point would you testify on this bill if you were going to? It'll help me understand when we need to.
Okay, so a little bit of the process is that usually what happens is the bills are sent to at least two committees. It's very rare for it to be sent to one committee. Sometimes they're sent to three subject matter committees. If the first committee that it's sent to, or the committee that has to hear it first, does not hear it, it doesn't go anywhere. If the first committee hears it and passes it out for further reading, then it would go before the second committee, and that is when we would probably weigh in on this measure.
And based on the first lateral, when would that be?
Well, we don't know. I mean,
Oh, okay.
the committee chairs do some pretty crazy things to each other. We've seen committee chairs schedule, meetings hearings 2 days before first lateral and then tell the other committee that they only have 2 days to hear it. You know, I mean, it's a little bit of a shell game up there, so.
So based on Commissioner Carsmith's interest in executive officer's recommendation, we'll schedule it for an update in a discussion at our next February 5th meeting as an agenda item. And let me ask that you put these as individual agenda items and not lump them so that we can shuffle as we see fit.
Understood, Chair.
Okay, and anything further on this one? Okay, SB 26 relating to affordable housing. Mr. Derrickson.
Thank you, Chair. So Senate Bill 26 relating to affordable housing establishes an affordable housing land inventory task force under the Hawaii Community Development Authority, HCDA, that would proceed up until January of 2026 with a report to the next legislative session. The reason it was flagged, it's because one of the members of this affordable housing land inventory task force would be the LUC executive officer.
This is one of those bills that we were talking about earlier that we probably won't testify on. I mean, it names us in the bill, but staff would not recommend we even testify on it. This is not something that impacts Chapter 205 or anything that this commission does. It just involves us in a discussion. And so we would not recommend testifying on this one.
Commissioners, questions for staff? Unless somebody feels otherwise, we will not have this agendized at the February 5th meeting.
Chair?
Well, Carsmith, my apology. I didn't see you guys raise your hand. Commissioner Carsmith.
So would the executive officer generally comment? Or you wouldn't say anything about this? I mean, don't we want everyone to know that we're supportive of housing? Affordable housing? As a general statement, at least?
I mean, we would, okay, so the position that we have taken in the past is that if this is policy, and this is a purely policy situation, that the legislature is entitled to make policy. We implement what the legislature tells us to do. And so in a case like this, where it would be not impacting our operations, we would not submit testimony. And we've submitted a lot of testimony in the past to all of the committee chairs, all of the committees, stating that we are in support of affordable housing. So that's not something that would be news to them. I mean, if we were going to testify on this, we would just say we're in support of affordable housing, which really doesn't do anything. And it doesn't help the legislators, which is, like I say, we have plenty to do. So, you know, we don't need to draft another set of testimony for something that really doesn't impact us.
Commissioner Wu. I'm muted. Commissioner Wu, you're muted, please.
Sorry, thank you. I like where it says inventories of state land suitable and available for affordable housing development. And I regard that as similar to the important ag lands. So we understand that there's important ag lands that we need to save for ag. And this part will be similar, but something that we need to at least address that could be potential for a good spot for affordable housing. So this is what I see as I look at it and as I read it. So that's it. That's my manao.
Thank you. So the question I have, and I'm open to suggestions, is do we want to bring this an update on February 5th, or can we proceed as recommended by just to watch it and not comment on it? that we will not include this one. But if something changes and becomes a concern, let me ask the executive officer to bring it to our attention. Okay. All right. Now, yeah, do we have testimony from the?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Janice on the Zoom, who I promoted to panelist. Janice, can we do a mic check?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and your address, and then I'll swear you in.
My name is Janice Palmagletti, and I reside in Kailua Kona.
Thank you very much. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please proceed. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Aloha, commissioners, and mahalo to the chair for offering to read my testimony out loud if I had to leave. There's several concerns regarding the proposal by the state legislature to require the State Land Use Commission to reclassify lands that are designated for urban growth under a county general plan or county development plan as being in the urban district at the request of the county. This gives the county authority to do a major reclassification from state ag or conservation to state urban district of all of the land within the general plan's exceptionally large urban boundary. As trustees of public trust resources in Hawaii, the first duty of a trustee is loyalty to the trust. The Land Use Commission's review and decision-making actions in many land use proposals are critical to guaranteeing a layer of protection for those special cultural and environmental features. In fact, your actions can either make or break a lot of places like 200 coastal acres at O'oma, which the LUC protected from becoming an urban development in West Hawaii. You must therefore be very cautious if you're advocating for actions which would harm public trust resources or give them away, which is a violation of your duties. A thorough review may not be possible if blanket changes are made. In North Kona, for example, there are a lot more places beside O'oma in the urban growth boundary with important resources, and the county general plan and the regional plans don't have detailed analysis of how they'd be impacted if placed in the urban district. Although it may seem logical at first glance, one issue of concern is how would cultural and environmental impact studies be required? Currently, if a private landowner wants to reclassify land from state ag or conservation to state urban, they'd need to do an EIS and a cultural sites inventory. That's the main reason a law shouldn't be passed to reclassify all state ag or conservation lands to state urban within the county general plan urban boundary with the stroke of a pen. Mahalo for your attention and dedication to helping to protect our public trust resources by encouraging as much public participation as possible through necessary layers of democratic processes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for changing your schedule to accommodate oral testimony today. I appreciate it.
Important. Thank you very much for your service.
Please stand by for questions. Commissioners, any questions for this community witness? Hearing none, we don't see any other. Thank you very much. Anybody else, Ms. Kwan?
Nobody else has used the Q&A feature for a testimony.
Nobody in the room?
Nobody in the room, Chair.
I'll just give Mary Alice, did you guys want to testify? Okay. So we're clear on how you'll proceed from agendizing the first two, but not the third? Okay.
Understood, Chair.
Okay, it is now 12:06. We got 24 minutes to go before we take a lunch break or see where we end up. Next agenda item is to authorize the executive officer to advocate for reinstatement of funding for an unbudgeted position number 125210 at the 2025 legislature. My understanding is that the position remains in existence as an approved position, but funding not. And that's the issue. So first, I would like to recognize public testimony on this matter. Has there been any written testimony on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Anybody, members of the public, wish to testify?
Nobody has used the Q&A feature to indicate they would like to provide testimony.
Nobody in the room.
Nobody in the room, Chair.
Okay. So Mr. Orendaker, can you kind of provide additional background on this item?
Yes, this position is Arnold Long's position, which, for lack of a better word, is what we call a development concierge. Arnold has been working on revitalizing developments that are on our books that have not been moving, and he's been very, very successful. Significant number of units have been put back on track over the next 3 years. When I originally requested this position from the legislature, I requested it as a temporary position. This is long before we even thought Arnold was going to be involved. Because I didn't know if it was going to work. And that's why it was temporary and not permanent. It's proven to be more successful than even I thought it was going to be. The administration did not put the funding in the budget. I understand that part of the reason for that, even though the position still exists, is an attempt to do across the board budget reductions. We have had the ability in the past to ask the legislature to, reassess, and they have done so. But I wanted to be sure that the commission was in agreement that this was a good idea.
Questions or comments based on Mr. Orendaker's?
I got a question. So where is it currently with the legislators? I mean, who made that decision not to budget?
That was an administration decision.
So where is it at now?
It's part of the administration's budget that's being submitted to the legislature.
Thank you.
So if you were to advocate, who'd you talk to? How's that work?
I would discuss it with the Budget and Finance Chair and the Ways and Means Chair.
Chair.
Commissioner Lee,
Mr. Ordenker, would this request be for a permanent funding or another temporary 1 year or 2 year position?
That would have to be part of the discussion with the chairs. I mean, I would like to see it as permanent. I think it's very successful, but the legislature holds the purse strings.
One more question. So are you going to be updating us as far as the status?
I can update you on my discussions, but the fact of the matter is that we really don't know what's going to happen until the very last day when the budget tables come out.
Commissioner Yamane? Oh,
One more question. So you are currently budgeted to keep Arnold for a month, a
His
year,
funding
2
ends.
months?
His funding ends at the end of this fiscal year.
That would be
June 30th.
June,
Yes.
ending of June. Thank you.
Commissioner Yamane.
Would you be able to keep Arnold on using other unexpended funds from the unfulfilled positions after June 30th?
Theoretically, yes. Although that puts us in a very difficult position because the position that we're trying to fill that could cover that would be our Planner 5 position.
Thank you.
I also recall Director Tokioka saying he wanted to put an end to that type of funding.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Yamane.
Ms. Arndek, do you believe this position is necessary?
I mean, you have to qualify necessary. I mean,
Do you want it? Do you
yeah,
want
yes. I think it is a very successful position. I think that we've contributed significantly to the number of units, or this position has contributed significantly to the number of units that are being built in the next 3 years. Is it necessary for the functions of the Land Use Commission as a regulatory body? No. But as in terms of the efforts that we are engaged in to promote housing and affordable housing, I think that it is very important.
Do you want it enough, notwithstanding the authorization, would you still try to pursue getting funding for this position?
If this commission decides it doesn't want me to
No,
pursue
I
it,
didn't ask if we decided not to. Should you not have this authorization to pursue it? Would you, like, we're not saying no, don't pursue it, but just no authorization. In other words, we make no action on this. Would you still pursue it?
I don't know how to answer that.
I guess my concern is it within the purview of this commission to authorize him to do something regarding staffing? That's why I asked the question. In other words, if we don't push you to do it, you're saying you're not gonna do it. And by authorizing, you are going to do it.
Let me put it to you this way. If you don't authorize me to do this, the first thing I would do would call up the director of the Department of Budget and Finance and see how he feels about it. Because, you know, that very often the governor's decisions, I mean, he's got a lot of stuff that he's got to look at. And it may not have been brought to his attention what he was doing, what the implications of this were. And I have a very good relationship with Louis Salvaria. We used to work together when he was director of DBED. And I can ask him, you know, Louis, what do you think? What do you think I should do? And as a matter of fact, it was Louis's support that got us the position in the first place, even though it was in the wasn't in the governor's budget 2 years ago. Louis actually said, you know, I'm going to tell Donovan Dela Cruz that we're in support of this.
Right, so I guess if this wasn't a line item on the agenda,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is you'd still seek avenues, whether it's discussions with budget finance, with
Yes.
director, to try and see if you can get this
I
person.
put this item on the agenda, or I suggested this item be put on the agenda because this commission has indicated that it wants to be more involved in the budget process. And that's why it's on the agenda.
Okay, yeah, I guess my concern, Mr. Chair, is that from a commission standpoint, we seem to be getting into management. I mean, we have management oversight over the director, but what he does with his staffing, how he pursues his staffing, that's kind of his decision. So that's why I bring it up. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I think that's a valid question. So I don't know how it works here, but I mean, at the state level, but if the legislature appropriates funds for this position, can the governor line item veto those funds?
I suppose so.
Suppose so. You know, I mean, does he have a line item veto?
Yes, he does.
Then he
but-
can.
Yeah, he can.
Second round of public testimony. Anybody?
Well, I got one more.
Wait,
I got-
okay,
Oh,
I'll come back to you. Just go to,
Seeing none, Chair.
okay. So commissioners, further discussion and then we got to take a vote.
you know, Dan, so it's an action item on the agenda. So with what you stated earlier about how important Arnold is and what all of the accomplishments he's accomplished so far, wouldn't you have more of, wouldn't you be more of a stronger advocate by getting this funding reinstated if we took a vote and get the commissioners to vote on it?
Yes, if the commission authorizes me, it gives me more support or more weight at the legislature.
When you say advocate for reinstatement, who are you gonna be meeting with? I mean, the director for DBED? The
Well,
governor?
The director of DBED has, and I have discussed this. My next step would be to call Louis Salvaria, the director of Department of Budget and Finance and find out what his position on it is on it and, you know, what a comfort level he has with me pursuing it. If he is comfortable with it, I will, then go to, the chairs of both House Finance and Ways and Means.
Thank you.
So the way that is in the agenda, it's, our vote is to whether we want to give support to him and authorize him to go to the ledge. Those other internal departmental discussions, that's not on the agenda. Correct? Yeah. Commissioner Carr Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Dan, I was just wondering, based on your experience, do you think the fact that you have 2 funded vacant positions, you think that has anything to do with being denied? I was just curious.
No, I don't believe so, because we are in recruitment for both of those positions. If we weren't trying to recruit for those positions, that would make a difference, but we have gone through list after list after list of applicants, trying to get, find the right person and trying to find someone who is willing to work for the state.
So my view is that this position has been filled with Arnold is making real-time positive results in the realm of getting houses built or housing built. It's a slow process, but it's helping. It's a worthwhile investment and I would support it. So, and I do think this commission can throw weight behind the advocacy. So, commissioners, what's your pleasure? Do I have a motion?
No,
Mr.
thank you. I
Tejeda.
want to make a motion that we authorize the executive officer to advocate for the reinstatement of funding
To the ledge.
to the ledge.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Second by Commissioner Wu. Any further discussion or question? Commissioner Miyasato.
Yeah, real quick. Thank you, Chair. You know, I'm gonna have to agree with Commissioner Yamani that as far as staffing, you need, you know, the director needs to do what he needs to do to be successful. That's his call, his decision. But if this is being put forward to add weight to the request, then I can support that.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's my comment. My comment is I would support it for the very reasons that Commissioner Miyasato suggested. I really do defer to the executive officer to manage and his staff and do the hiring and firing of that staff. But if we can lend weight to getting Arnold full-time and paid for, although if Arnold wants to do it for free, that's okay too. Yeah, Commissioner Lee.
I think he works for meat.
He works for me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Lee.
Yeah, I guess, and I have to first make a disclaimer that I probably know Arnold longer than anyone here. So I'm still not gonna hold that against him. Although fellow Commissioner Tejeda probably has worked the closest with him in recent years. I guess the desire or the position that you want someone like Arnold sort of contradicts a little bit what Commissioner Yamani said, that we shouldn't be doing anything policy wise. So I just wanted to see that it's not always a clear cut thing, you know, so I'm gonna support that, but I'm gonna really be cognizant that Arnold and maybe it's the executive officer needs to show us the results, you know, that for us to support this, I mean, we all have fiduciary duties and money will probably be tight. So we don't want to just give a blanket thing. But if Arnold can be put in the best light and show results, I think that would be very helpful for the future. Thank you.
Yeah, so the position is not Arnold. I mean, you're gonna advocate for the position, right?
regardless of who was in it. We ended up hiring Arnold because after going through a round of interviews, he was the only one who really understood the process and could immediately, because we only had a year and a half. You don't get 2 years, you get a year and a half to get this position up and running and to have an impact. And Arnold was the one who could do that the most quickly. So we're not really talking about Arnold, we're talking about the position. Arnold may decide to retire next year, who knows? But the position has been productive. So.
Mr. Yamane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I can support the intent of this authorization. Just wanted to caveat that my concern is that more and more this commission is going to have to authorize everything you do, which is, to me, we're not a management board here. So to a certain degree, you need to do what you need to do to make sure you fulfill your job and fulfill it to this commission. So I don't want to keep having agenda item to authorize you to, go buy a coffee machine or things like that. So that's my concerns. Fully support the intent of this bill and what you're trying to do, but trying to avoid any precedent we're setting here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, last round of comments before we do a vote. Seeing none on the screen.
Seeing none.
Okay. Mr. Rundecker, please take a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is to authorize the executive officer to advocate for reinstatement of funding for unbudgeted position number 125210 at the 2025 legislature. Commissioner Kahele.
Aye.
Commissioner Uu.
Aye.
Commissioner Yamane.
Aye.
Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo Hello.
Aye.
Commissioner Hayashida.
Aye.
Commissioner Carr Smith.
Aye.
Chair Giovanni. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I think we can do this next one in 7 minutes. Our next order of business is a decision to withdraw the 2023 proposed administrative rule amendments. So, first of all, is there any public testimony on this item?
We have Ken Church on the Zoom who would like to provide testimony on this item.
Okay, let's advance him to.
Mr. Church, can you test your microphone for us?
Mr. Church, please state your name and affiliation again.
Ken Church, live on the Big Island, Hakalau community.
Okay, you're still under oath, so please proceed. You have 2 minutes.
My testimony is that your existing rules are highly deficient, confusing, and improperly applied by both the LUC staff, your executive officer, and this panel. You've been advised of this by your executive officer at one of your public meetings more than a year ago. And here we are today, still talking about it without you making badly needed corrections. Frankly, it is my belief that your executive officer's arrogance is overstepping of his authority and directly and improperly making unauthorized representations to the governor on this panel's behalf. His dereliction of duties and responsibilities to both this panel and the community at large are the cause of these unnecessary delays. I have direct and hard evidence of this, and I'm prepared to submit it in writing to this panel if you request it. If you're not interested in me providing you with hard evidence, then it's my position that you become complicit in his incompetence and his dereliction of duty. In summary, it's my opinion that this panel needs to seriously reconsider his continuing employment at the LUC. The LUC should move forward with haste to withdraw withdraw the proposed rule amendments because the existing situation has led to several court challenges in regards to flood boundary interpretations and resulting declaratory orders. These court challenges remain in process today. They are expensive and a big waste of time. These appeals, which were driven by the executive officer's incompetence and dereliction of his duties, are burdening your staff, this panel, the state and its attorney general, the state citizens, and the state's courts. That is my testimony.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Church from the commissioners? No questions. Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Orndenker, would you please, well, Ariana, there's nobody else, right?
Nobody else has used the Q&A feature for this agenda item.
Okay, great. So Mr. Orndenker, would you please provide an overview to this commission on, and your recommendation on the decision or
Okay.
not to withdraw
Yeah.
the 2023 proposed rule?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We, as you may recall, proposed rule amendments. And then, after the initial discussion with the commission, we then went and discussed the proposed rule amendments with everyone who had a desire to do so. We discussed them with Cal Chipchase, who was one of the ones who provided testimony. David Arakawa never responded to our requests for further clarification of his statements. And the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, by the way, I forgot to mention Commissioner on Water Resource Management, which you've heard from, who you've heard from. The Office of Planning and Sustainable Development met with us several months ago, and we discussed the matter with them, and then they submitted comments, which were basically concerns with almost all of the proposed amendments that we were making. Things became uncertain for us with regard to how to proceed, and now that Katya Beliciano has left the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, it is our opinion that we should wait until they have a new person in charge of LUD and give them some time to understand what's happening and then discuss it with them. So this is only a temporary sort of withdrawal. I mean, we just didn't want to have it hanging out there and the commissioners asking us, well, whatever happened to the rule amendments? We will, once we have discussed it further with OPSD, return to the commission with probably a new set of proposed changes.
So are you recommending that you withdraw these or that we table these?
I think it's a distinction without a difference. I mean, we could just table these, the commission doesn't have to take any action, and we would just table them. But the rule amendments that we come back with are probably going to be look much different after we've come to some consensus with OPSD.
Okay, so your intent is to work collaboratively with OPSD to update the rules, and they may look different than the ones that were put forth a year and a half ago.
That is correct. And that's why we're proposing a withdrawal, because it may not even resemble what we originally submitted.
Okay. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Orndenker? Commissioner Lee?
In the interest of time, I think it's pretty clear. So I'm going to motion that we approve the withdrawal of the proposed administrative rule amendments.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I saw Ms. Carsmith's hand
Mhm.
first, so I'm going to give her the privilege. Okay, seconded by Ms. Carsmith. Any further discussion on this one? Would you please do a roll call vote and the motion is to withdraw the 2023 proposed rule amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Carr Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayashida,
Aye.
Commissioner Kahele,
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo Hello,
Aye.
Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioner Uu,
Aye.
Commissioner Yamane,
Aye.
Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So it's now 12:32. Let me thank Commissioner Hello, Commissioner Hayashida for their time this morning. We're going to take a break and we will resume without them present. We'll have a quorum of 7 present. So how much time we need for lunch? Any suggestions? Nothing, I didn't. An hour? Okay, 1:30 return. We are recessed till 1:30.
Mahalo, Chair. Mahalo, Commission.
Mahalo. Okay, we're back in session at 1:32. Our next order of business is an update on LUC staff participation with the State of Hawaii Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, parenthetically OPSD, soil classification systems and use in regulating agricultural land study. I'll now recognize any public testimony submitted on this matter.
There's been no written testimony and nobody using the Q&A feature for testimony.
Okay, any public testimony? Thank you. I'll now call on Chief Planner Scott Derrickson. Please proceed with a presentation on this item.
Aloha kako, Commissioners, Scott Derrickson. So this process has been going on since July of 2022, based on a act passed by the legislature. Really, our participation started in roughly July 2023 when there was a work plan developed by OPSD and their consultants. And we were in on the review of that. Then in July through August of 2023, there were questions from the consultants, so informal meetings. October 3rd and 5th in 2023, there were initial focus groups that OPSD and the consultant had, and myself and Martina participated in one of the focus groups. November 2023 to March 2024, we had periodic contacts with the consultants on questions that came up. Between March and April of 2024, there were additional focus group meetings. Again, Martina and I both participated. In May 2024, there was a meeting to review the summary memo that was put together by OPSD and their consultants. Between May and June 2024, again, periodic informal contacts to discuss recommendations by phone, by email, by Zoom. And then in 2024, in December, there was a final report to the legislature that OPSD filed. And so we have been participating for about a year and a half, approximately, in this and providing review and comments. And I think, you know, I'm open to questions that you might have. We did link to the OPSD soil study on OPSD's website. There's an interim report. And there's also the final report up there. There's also a pretty extensive slide deck showing what has been presented both in the past and more recently by the consultants. So I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Scott. Commissioners, questions for Scott? Commissioner Miyasato?
Yep, thank you, Scott. I just breezed through this, but I just had a question if there was any type of study done on forestry.
Okay, I will point out that we do have representatives from OPSD here that may be able to answer some questions more specifically than I, but so my understanding, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but this did not do any new studies. This didn't do a new soil classification. This didn't do a new forestry study. They did an extensive review of existing literature and existing studies. So my answer to yours would be, no, there wasn't a forestry study. Forest resources are somewhat embedded in the soil classification system historically.
Okay, no, just because of Big Island, we have an abundance of forests that been there over 25 years with nothing being done.
Which those eucalyptus forests post-date the Land Study Bureau's
Okay,
classifications.
thank you.
And that is something that was acknowledged and raised throughout this process, is that those Land Study Bureau classifications are a point in time, or actually based on a history, but also a point in time, and they have not been updated since that point in time.
So Scott, what's the next step? Or maybe that's a question to OPSD as well. What's the next, you submitted the report to legislature. What does that say?
So I'm gonna call up Mary Alice Evans.
Have I got it adjusted correctly?
Close as you can.
I was thinking.
You can move it closer to you.
Thank you. Chair, may I add some additional information
Oh,
to?
please do, and you're still under oath.
Commissioners, Chair, one of the admin bills that was introduced to the legislature yesterday and now has bill number HB 1012 and Senate Bill 1331 is a bill to update the soil data used by the Land Study Bureau soil rating system with current data and approaches, and appropriates funds. And so we have proposed, and it's been included in the governor's package. And of course, that doesn't mean that the legislature will agree with it. We've requested $400,000 or so much as there may be necessary for the fiscal year 2025-26 for the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development to conduct the work required by this bill. Oh, maybe I could add a little bit more.
Yeah, a little more would be great.
Okay. So I think enough has been said about, how old the data currently is for the Land Study Bureau data. What we are asking is to keep the Land Study Bureau because it's a part of 205. Rather than starting a new soil rating system. That was one of the questions that was posed to our consultant to the focus groups. But we think that the least disruptive and most seamless thing would be to keep the Land Study Bureau system, but to update it using the latest United States Department of Agriculture Natural Resource Conservation Services soil data for the state and soil data from other soil rating systems used in the state. The Department of Agriculture, U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resource Conservation Service soil data updates for the state, creating detailed digital maps that show the soils across the state, and then drafting statutory and ordinance changes that may be necessary to align the state and county governance with the updated soil data by using the Land Study Bureau soil rating system. So that's the plan, if the legislature agrees.
So trying to get my hands around where this thing might land. I know you're gonna stay with the basic same ABCs of the structure of the rating system. But I recall a lot of the recommendations had to do with it, to recognize that the permissible uses in each classification need to be updated in some respect. Is that within scope, do you think?
No, I think this is just the soil rating system itself, not amending the permissible uses in 205, but looking at whether there may be changes in the capability of the soils based on maybe the old plantation water systems are no longer functional, and therefore lands that were capable of producing commercial amounts of sugar and pine are no longer able to do that, but may be suitable for something else that doesn't require the amount of water that at least sugar did, that kind of thing.
Okay, so if a parcel is no longer, hypothetically, no longer suited for what it originally was classified and becomes classified for a different category, is the anticipation is that a different category would accommodate the uses that are more applicable for that land?
I'm going to ask Aaron Sitagawa, one of our senior planners, worked closely on this study. If you would permit, Chair,
Absolutely.
I'd like to have him answer that.
Aaron, need to swear you in real quick. Just state your name and your job title.
Aaron Sitagawa, Land Use Planner with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Do you swear the testimony you give be the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, so what the bill is doing is asking for money for the legislature so that we can produce a new model. We wouldn't be able to actually replace the LSP because that takes a lot of regulatory changes. One of the findings of the study is that the LSP system is one of the soil classification systems referenced in state and county statutes, laws, and regulations, but it is the predominant one, which should be LSP. So in order to actually change it, to implement all the changes would require a lot bigger process. The study is just to create a new model with updated data and establish a process for continuing update as the years go by, produce digital maps so that people can see, all stakeholders can see what their property would look like with the updated model. Because a lot of concern was expressed during our outreach that, well, what if somebody had one land use because their property was rated E, and now you come back and the new thing finds it A rated. You know, what happens to my land? I mean, so we wanted to make sure to see what would be the actual impact with the mapping on people's parcels. And it wouldn't be parcel by parcel, but it'd be a general mapping. And there would be a process of public outreach, you know, and there'd be a lot of discussion about that. And then, but it would be to confirm the valuability of a new model, what it would look like, and how we would continue to do it. The next step after that, if it was decided to implement this, then you start getting into, you know, statutory changes and so forth.
Okay, I think I get it. Commissioners, anything further? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Scott. Last round for public testimony, anything?
Seeing none in the Q&A feature and seeing none in the room, Chair.
Okay, this was an informational update. There's no action required by the commission. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Mary Alice. Our next order of business is the adoption of minutes from our meeting of January 8th and 9th, 2025. Ms. Kwan, has been any written testimony on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Any members of the public wanting to testify?
Seeing none, Chair.
Commissioners, are there any corrections or additions or comments on the minutes? If not, do I have a motion to adopt the minutes from January 8th and 9th, 2025?
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Commissioner Yamani moves to approve. Do I have a second on the minutes?
Second,
I think Miles got in under the wire there. So Commissioner Miyasato is the second. All in favor of the adoption of minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are adopted. Thank you.
Chair, could I have I have a question on the approved adopted minutes.
Sure.
Thank you. On the minutes, there was an item from the previous meeting on a request for election of officers. And so I just wanted to ask the Deputy Attorney General on your reasoning to withdraw that item on the agenda.
Ms. Steele, are you prepared to respond?
So if you'd like to ask about that to me, it would need to be an executive session.
Okay, I guess I make a motion to move into executive session to consult with our legal counsel on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities.
Do I have a second? Seconded by
I'll second.
Commissioner Lee. All in favor, say, excuse me, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. So we'll now go into executive session. You set that up, Mariana. It's now 1:49. We'll take a recess till you're back in session. So the next agenda item is the tentative schedule. Mr. Arndecker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our next meetings will be on February 5th and 6th. Those will be hybrid meetings due to administrative glitches that won't allow us to have the meeting in person. On, we're
The P card issue.
yeah.
Just full disclosure. I want everybody to understand this crazy. No, I want it on
Okay.
record.
Our
Sorry,
understanding is.
I can't hear what Dan O is saying.
Okay, our understanding is that the P cards, which is what we use to book travel and lodging and everything else that or not lodging, but to book travel, have been frozen because all of the P cards at Department of Business and Economic Development and Tourism are linked to one account. And one of our sister agencies has been recalcitrant in paying their bills. So all of the P cards are frozen, which means that we don't have the ability to book travel. As a result, we're gonna have to have at least the February 5th and 6th meetings hybrid.
1 second. So hybrid means there's a choice.
Yes, I
So
mean.
how do we choose to travel if it's?
Well, no. What I'm saying is if you choose to travel on your own dime,
Right.
that's fine. But we have several Oahu commissioners that could come here if they wanted to.
Ah, very good. Okay. But
Or members of the
neighbor
public.
island commissioners.
Members of the public, yeah.
Well, Mike,
Did I-
what if I make a motion to have the meeting on Kauai? Mike, can I have your vote?
Would we, if we paid all of our own pocket, let's say, would we be reimbursed?
I have no idea.
I can process reimbursement if commissioners want to pay out of pocket for flight for February 5th and 6th.
I think that's a great idea. I would do that. That's why I would want to meet in person, not 2 days of Zoom.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to chair a meeting ever again by Zoom.
I agree, and I'm not even there.
Okay, well, I mean, if commissioners decide that they want to come in person, if we get everybody to agree, including Commissioner Carr Smith, Commissioner Uu, and the Commissioner Yamane and Commissioner Giovanni, and Commissioner Miyasato, then we can hold the meeting as in person. But Ariana's gonna need to know fairly quickly.
Well, I think still schedule it as hybrid, but with the option that anybody could use their own money
Okay.
to show up with the expectation of being fully reimbursed.
Okay, we can do that. We believe that there are gonna be enough bills to discuss, at that agenda so that we're anticipating 2 days, the 5th and the 6th for that meeting. Meeting will once again be here. We'll also be getting, updates from Haseko and, from Arnold Wong on his work as well. On February 19th, we'll be, hopefully, we'll be on.
Quick question. The Haseko update is on whether or not, same Haseko that we had questions about, are they gonna do the infrastructure?
Martina, can you speak to that?
That matter that's scheduled on February 5th is the Haseko Huakale job credits motion to amend.
It's not that. It's not, got nothing to do with,
It's not Halakua.
it's not how it
No,
goes.
it's not. The 19th, on February 19th, we'll be on Maui, hopefully, for the Emmanuel Lutheran status report. The 20th is currently open. We have, March 5th and 6th currently open as we do the 19th and 20th. And April the same.
I will not be here March 5th and 6th, so. What was it?
Those are open right now.
They're open, so keep them open.
Okay, Thank you,
if
Chair.
can.
thank you, Chair.
So what was the dates in the last part of February?
19th and 20th.
What's scheduled for that? Sorry.
Emmanuel Lutheran status report is on the 19th. We may not need to hold a hearing on the 20th. Yes, that's correct.
April is open.
Yes, it is. Currently, March and April are open. But that's, you never know if we're gonna get an SPE or something that has a 45-day deadline on it, so. We'll update the commissioners at the next meeting.
Questions?
Mr. Chair, so the 6th right now on the calendar is showing blank, so that's a new development to meet on the 6th, correct?
Yeah, it was decided today after we determined to add ledge bills to the next agenda item.
Got it.
We
Thank-
think it'll take 2 days.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the calendar? Commissioner Carr Smith?
So, has the frozen P card thing happened before? I mean, is it froze for a couple of days and so you don't want to commit, or does this happen for a month? Or?
In my combined almost 20 years of the state, not just this, but my previous life at the state, I've never seen this happen before.
Okay, so it could change any day. So at what point, Ariana, do we go ahead and make our own flight reservations and lodging reservations?
I will be in communication with the commissioners regarding that.
Okay. All right. And then Chair, I wanted to ask if we could have lunch provided on those 2 days, please, so we don't have to waste an hour.
I agree, and I have in my notes, and let me apologize for not making that request for today, because I knew it would be a long meeting. So, staff, may we have to vote on this?
No, we do not. But there is a little, do we use the P card? That's the problem. We'll do what we can. The
Won't you
worst
guys
case
be
scenario,
submitting reimbursements too? I mean, you must be spending money
the-
that you don't have.
I was gonna say the worst case scenario is that we will circulate a menu from a local establishment to, and the commissioners can pay out of their pockets. I mean, we'll figure it out.
Okay, that would be for both days if we meet both days, right? Okay. That's a yes. Yeah. Arnold's buying.
Yeah, I
Okay.
heard that.
Chair, I have one more comment.
Please,
I
Commissioner
just
Carson.
wanted to thank the staff for putting together the informational items today. And I'm sure it was a lot, and the ones that they've done in the past. I just appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I found the links to the OIP stuff very, very useful as well as the other links. So thank you for that. I don't, any other business, anybody? Any other requests? Going once, twice? This meeting is adjourned.